As you begin your study of algebra, there are certain basic facts you need to know. You need to be able to recognize the operations of multiplication and division. I'm sure you recognize this expression as 2 multiplied by 3. But as you go on in your study of algebra, using an x to represent multiplication becomes a problem, because in algebra we often use letters to stand for missing numbers. X just happens to be one of the letters we use most often. So another way to represent multiplication would be to use a dot. Notice the dot is about halfway between the lines, so it's not mistaken for a decimal. So this expression also means 2 times 3. But a third way to show multiplication is to use parentheses. If you see a number and a parenthesis, or 2 parentheses, and there's no operation between them, then automatically we assume that the operation is multiplication. Therefore, all of these expressions say 2 times 3. Please note that order is not important in multiplication, so if you get the order confused and you say 3 times 2, you get exactly the same answer. In elementary school, you often saw the division problem 10 divided by 5 written in this manner. However, as you go on in algebra, you'll see it written more often like this or like this. Now, you may look at this expression and say, well, that's just a fraction. Well, that's what a fraction is. It's just a division problem. But order here is important. This fraction is read from top to bottom. So we read this fraction as 10 divided by 5, which gives 2. If you make a mistake and reverse the order and say 5 divided by 10, you get a totally different answer. You get the answer 1/2. So order is important in division. You also need to be able to deal with exponents. Exponents are superscripts. Here, 3 is the base, 2 is the exponent. An exponent is a short way of showing repeated multiplication. So, for example, here, 3 to the 2nd power is the way to read this expression, and it simply means that you take the base, 3, and you multiply it times itself. So notice here we have 2 3's multiplied together, which gives 9. So 3 to the 2nd power means 3 times 3. Again, an exponent is often called a power. The biggest mistake that students make with exponents is they try to multiply the exponent times the base. For example, here they might try to say 2 times 3 is 6. That is not correct. You don't multiply the exponent times the base. Instead, the exponent tells you how many times to multiply the base times itself. So, for example, 5 to the 3rd power tells you to take 5 and multiply it by itself 3 times. So 5 to the 3rd power means 5 times 5 times 5. And of course you can't do both of those operations at one time, so you have to do one at a time. So you multiply the first 2 5's, and then you take that answer and multiply it by the last 5. Now, the powers of 2 and 3 are used more often than any other. Therefore, we have special names for them. For example, 3 to the 2nd power may also be read as 3 squared. 5 to the 3rd power may also be read as 5 cubed. It doesn't matter what the base is, so if I have 4 to the 2nd power, I can also read it as 4 squared. If I have 7 to the 3rd power, I can also read it as 7 cubed.